Franklin Sunday from the Standard newspaper, and Paul Wafula, also from the Standard newspaper, award-winning journalist here. In our city center studio, we have Maurice Odor. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Maurice, I will start with you. Our Kenyan economy has slowed at the beginning of the year, and I guess what we should now be hoping for is that a Trump presidency will create some positive impact for the Kenyan and the African economies. But do you see this happening?
Thank you, Joy. If you look at the Trump policy, especially during his campaign trail, you look at now, you look at different areas in terms of trade and investments. Trump was talking about renegotiating the Trans-African partnership with the U.S., negotiating a number of trade deals so that they ensure that now for the better benefits of the America, so that if you look at that, African again will likely not stand to benefit again from that presidency. If you look at again aspects like aid in terms of support African likely to get from that from the U.S. as an economy, again, what he was saying in his campaign trail that is going to be more pro-America, making America great again, ensuring that in every deal Americans benefit first. So that's again, they are going to be sort of like more reduced aid in terms of inflow into the country. And again, you look at again in terms of international peace, again, and security, he will have to work with the international leaders to ensure, again, because we are at a level where you are seeing terrorism is now an international issue, the international issue that has to be dealt with. We'll have now to come and work with other world leaders. If you look at in totality, though there are no specific areas touching on Kenya, but if you look at African and other emerging markets put together, they are likely not to have much significant benefit from the Trump presidency.
What make of President Barack Obama's economic legacy? Do you think that it has had much impact on our African economies?
If you look at how Barack Obama came in at a time where the American economy was facing economic challenges, and if you look at how he has done, though African has not benefited as much, but we've seen a number of initiatives that have been directed towards Africa. Look at terms of Global Entrepreneurship Summit. Look at, again, strengthening African growth opportunity, and again, the extension of that trade agreement. So if you look at, though we didn't benefit as much as we expect as African countries, but at least there was some benefit and there was some pro-African policy that were done during the Obama time. But now if we cross to Donald Trump, indication that you've already seen is American first, then other people will come second.
All right, let me pose a question to my guests here in studio on this side. Paul, I'll start with you. Do you think that at this point in time, we should get worried as a Kenyan economy on the kind of relationship we're going to have with the United States, seeing the kind of policies or promises Donald Trump made during his campaigns?
I think it will be unfair for us to sit pretty and wait until all these policies come into effect. We should start now thinking in terms of when this happens, what are we going to do? Because remember, US is actually the second biggest export market for Kenya after Uganda. So in the whole world, Uganda comes first and US comes second. So anything that happens to US, then us, we are automatically affected. And remember the African Growth Opportunity Act, what is known as AGOA. Remember that is really a very important part of the African narrative with the trading the U.S. And Trump has already asked questions. Why do we need to support this? If we are only supporting oil companies that are benefiting, why are we supporting African companies that are countries that are corrupt? He's asking those questions. And if he realizes that they are not helping America at the end of the day, and his strategy is to actually make America what he wants it to be, then you realize that even us who sit on the fringe shall be able to suffer. So we should be able to understand that actually this is our key export market. And we've been relying on it for many other benefits. Let us look about even the fight of terrorism, and this actually deals with our economy directly. Yeah. So if we lose that support that we've been having, the US has been pumping in over 10 billion every year to just be able to help us fight Somalia. And Trump has already asked if we have been fighting Somalia for 10 years, Al-Shabaab, why have we not won? So he's simply asking that why are we still there? I mean, why are we putting money in a corrupt regime and so on and so forth? So if you look at this kind of things, if people feel that we are coming to have challenges, even sustaining our fight in Somalia, maybe from funding or technically support or the kind of father figure that we had in the US, then we actually sit at a weaker position. So these are the questions we need to really look at and understand that in the geopolitics things, Kenya stands to be among the losers.
So, Franklin, from where you look at it from the business perspective, do you think that maybe President Barack Obama, despite the fact that he was the first black president might have made African countries more attractive to the Western countries.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for having us, Joy. And for sure, Barack Obama's presidency came with a lot of expectations for Africans, considering the fact that he's a Kenyan, he's a Kenyan dissident, and he actually cast the spotlight on Kenya, and the GES summit that brought him to Kenya was the first time that he came here, and we were able to see that the US was sort of involved in Kenya, because at the beginning of it we were asking, yes, he's a Kenyan son, but are we going to get anything from this? Is he ever going to visit Kenya? And then when he came to Tanzania and then flew by Kenya, then we were concerned a bit, and then came back for the GES summit. So I can say that he cast the limelight on Kenya, and he actually gave US investors sort of a place and a direction where they can sort of put in their money. So we're moving from Barack Obama into Trump, and Trumponomics promises to be quite, I can say, alarming to globalization.
America.
Yeah, and it's very seclusionary, and we are really concerned, and we really don't know where that is going to head.
And some are actually saying, he's taking the protectionist stand, which could be good for America, but bad for the rest of the world. And one of them can be seen by his tweets, where he has asked most of the big, car makers like Ford to make sure they have plants, say, in Michigan or, spread out across the United States, which is actually one way of saying, if you do not create jobs for the United States citizens, there's no need for you to be here. And that is actually creating some sort of insecurity around these companies. And I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but do you think that this could actually create opportunities, say, for the African continent, that these companies could just say, you know what, let's just do away with Trump, let's go to Africa?
I mean, Joy, for a president, if you're elected, you must put the interests of your people first. So Trump might be doing the right thing. I mean, he is interested in the American dream, and he's thinking about, how do I create these 25 million jobs? How do I return? Take on China, for instance. His biggest, if you look at his even how he's relating with China already, you realize that there's a lot of frosty relationship. So he's wondering why does even China challenge us? We are the superpower. But you look at it in terms of America's power is not just what it does at home; it's actually what it does out of home. That's when we actually feel what America is. But if it goes down into seclusionism, as Frank says, then we find ourselves in a very tricky situation. Remember when Obama actually called the first African Leaders Summit and the US, and that's the first time he actually was able to host African leaders, and they sat down and discussed really the main thing on the table was trade. How do we open up Africa? How do we make sure that the trade that we have is actually not just one way? You look at the trade we have, like for China, where China, we are taking everything and they're taking nothing from us, and he's telling African leaders, look, as the US, we are able to take something from you, but also you have to take something in return. So that is the kind of healthy relationship that we expect. But if you're just going to say you are either here or not here, then that's not really how to build the world economy, because if America is strong and the rest of us are weak, then it's not really,
So let's cross back to the city center where Maurice Odor is. Maurice, we've seen in the past so many months, the United States Federal Reserve has had an interest rate hike, and for some reason it has made the United States more attractive, and so we've seen investors selling and exiting the Kenyan and some of the other African markets and taking their investments into the United States. And this is something that is likely to continue all the way into 2017. Do you think that right now we need to strategize on what other avenues we can use, to make Kenya more attractive, or to make the African continent more attractive to investors from around the world?
I think we need, because if you look at African countries, especially look at Kenya, there are still a lot more things to be done so that we have we increase the ease of doing business in the country. And again, a number of things you have to work on to make our even capital markets more attractive. We need to diversify our capital markets further so that we have a number of products that these foreign investors can invest in. Currently, we only have equities, bonds. We need to put a lot of initiative in terms of product development and further diversification and deepening of the capital markets to continue attracting capital into different areas. And again, we need to carry out, ensure that even the local Kenyans are more educated so that we don't leave stock market at the vulnerability of the foreign participation that now we are seeing in the US is now more attractive. and now we're seeing a number of sell-offs in the market, and the market has now hit a historical low in terms of indices performance. We are looking at now level where we've seen almost like 8 years ago.
President Donald Trump has promised to create 25 million new jobs and also boost the economy by over 3.5%. Is his strategy a little bit too ambitious, and should we maybe pick some lessons from Donald Trump's strategies?
If you look at Donald Trump's strategy, is American first, anti-globalization, which if you look at where the world has gone through since the 1990s all the way to the 2000 to where we are, we've seen that globalization actually works, opening boundaries for movement of goods and capital, for different economies to spread us in the area where they deem fit, where they have the capacity and where they have the specialization. And this one helps in terms of growing economies and creating jobs. So I'm seeing in terms of what Trump is driving in terms of American protectionist stance, and again now ensuring economic growth and creating jobs, which I think would work better in a more globalized environment where you even stand to benefit even from the goods and services that are even produced from other countries.
And this is a question I'm posing to all three of us here in studio. We've seen the number of immigrants in the United States increasing, and actually when you take a look at the green card applications, in a day they say at least more than half of them either come from Mexico or the Spanish-speaking North America and the African continent. And when you look at this very scenario, you actually realize that most of the workforce in the United States could be coming from these two specific areas or regions that I just mentioned. He is actually a pro-immigrants should go back to their native countries. Do you think that in a way this is likely to affect the United States economy going forward? Franklin, let me start with you.
Oh yes, for sure. I mean, Trump's appeal was that the immigrants are taking away the jobs from the U.S. citizens, and this was not so, because what was actually taking away the jobs was automation and not immigrants. So what this is going to do is that this is going to cause a lot of victimization. It's going to already heighten what is already tough and complex race and identity relations in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And I think that type of energy and that type of atmosphere will make the U.S. become sort of a difficult place to invest in, even for people who are looking outside in.
All right.